Together is a movie about toxic people fused into one horrifying body against their will. Coincidentally, that's also the Constitution of the European Union. I'm Bobby Reelz from the Movie Crashers, and this is How to Beat the Involuntary Body Horror Curse from Together with Skunk Drunk Uncle Logic. The movie opens with a search party in the forest looking for a missing couple. Their rescue dogs immediately wander into a mysterious cave, lap up some pond scum, and later, the owner catches them fused together like an old cracker in a barrel. Cut to another part of the city, where mullet boyfriend Guy and Annie from Community are doing their "we're moving to the countryside" farewell party. She's glowing with optimism. He's growing an ulcer from too many second thoughts. Annie's best friend is like, don't rush into this relationship, which is basically girl code for you could still find a guy with a better mullet. But Annie insists they're solid. Meanwhile, on the balcony, Mullet Guy's music bro friends invite him on tour. He nods faster than a politician at a gun lobby dinner, even though he already promised to quit music and play house forever. But later, Community Annie decides to lock it in completely and proposes to the Mullet Guy in front of all of their friends. And he freezes, like she just asked him to co-sign a crypto mortgage. Then, after a long pause and some painful side eyes, he forces out a yes. It sounds more like a hostage video. All because when you freeze and don't know what to do, just ask ChatGPT. Give it a prompt to write you a marriage response that makes you look supportive, but still leaves room for a 6-month tour. Don't forget to add, make no mistakes. If the response is too short, call it something offensive. That'll trigger the guilt drive and force it to think harder. Meanwhile, if your fiance starts wobbling on one knee, asking why you can't just answer like a normal human, tell her to seal it and relax. It's faster this way. Write a new prompt, add bullet points, conditions, a word count, and a mandatory haiku. Maybe throw in a few more insults to really reach its deeper thinking core. And when you fine-tune the prompt into a 3-page legal document, that's when you realize the truth. This hoe is not yo ho. Because just like the guy at the roadside alligator wrestling pit once told me, if it takes you too long to make a decision, the answer is no. So Mullet Guy and Community Annie get to their new countryside home with mice in the ceiling and divorce frequencies in the drywall. Annie starts her new teaching gig and immediately gets hit on by another teacher who looks like Mr. Rogers, if the rumors were true. The next day they take a hike to Bond, but instead they get lost in the woods and stumble on a path covered in ominous bells. Naturally, they follow the bells and fall into a cave. The cave is damp and musty, kind of like my bed until I turned 17. So, Mullet Guy makes a fire and insists they wait out the storm here. To punch it up a little, he even chugs from the cave's pond water like it's a cough syrup margarita bar at Electric Daisy Carnival. And in the morning, they wake up with their legs glued together by Nana's rusty pan leftover grease. All because if you want to sleep in a cave without any danger to your life, you don't start a fire, you start a career on the international most wanted list. To go to college in the US, then meet a couple of suits at a frat party, shake some sticky hands, and sign a few informal agreements. Next, head back to your home country. Attempt a small government shakeup, and when the frat party suits change their mind and cut your funding, boom, you're cave ready now. Step 2, don't just fall into a cave by accident. Set it up like the legends did. It can't be just a hole in the ground. You'll want power generators, goat-based security alarms, and at least one golden AK-47. And if your leg still gets fused with your girl's leg in the morning, and I don't want to sound like a bigot here, but man, just ask her to shave next time. Anyway, back from the cave, Annie tries to reconnect. But when she asks for a massage, Mullet Guy blanks out mid-rub like Windows 98 hitting the blue screen of death. She ends up hurt, and he ends up apologizing, like Hunter Biden dropping off another laptop at a repair shop. She heads into town for errands, leaving him to rest. Instead, his body seizes up and magically yanks him toward her direction, like he's drunk with the boys at 3 a.m., and the 7-Eleven taquito roller is summoning its acolytes. At the therapist's office, he tries to explain this whole magnetic body possession thing, and the doc prescribes him the same thing they prescribe everyone who sounds poor but still has insurance: muscle relaxants. But Mullet Guy isn't buying it. He dives online to research the missing couple. And of course he finds spooky parallels. Same posts, same vibes, same "we're definitely not coming back alive" Instagram captions. And he tells him to log off, but Mullet Guy's already downloading Telegram. Then the creepy coworker shows up to check if Annie's single yet. And things get awkward when Annie jokes about how Mullet Guy can't drive, embarrassing him in front of Temu's Mr. Rogers. Later they kiss to make up, but their lips stick together like my butt cheeks in July, and Annie accuses him of always ruining the moment, while he panics like the school nurse just caught him Frenching the CPR dummy from health class. All because if you start to feel too attached to your lady and can't imagine leaving her even for a couple hours, you don't need doctors. You need to buy yourself a PS5. So when your body starts yanking you around because the biological clock says it's starting a family time, the console keeps you planted. You're still possessed, but now it's by Elden Ring, which is basically a fertility test for your patience anyway. And instead of doom-scrolling missing couple conspiracies, you're too busy rage-quitting Cyberpunk because Judy doesn't want to romance you. And when your girl leans in for a kiss, your lips don't stick together because you're already stuck to a headset, screaming at 12-year-olds in Call of Duty about getting teabagged every 3 seconds on shipment. So Mullet Guy tries to get it together and insists on leaving for his music tour, even though Community Annie begs him to rest. On the way to the station, his body seizes up again, and he gets dragged around like a protester, politely escorted by 6 invisible cops in riot gear. He misses the train and stumbles to Annie's workplace instead. She sneaks him inside, but instead of talking it out, they end up going at it in the school bathroom. Only problem is, they can't separate afterward because they forgot to leave some room for Jesus. A student hears the commotion and rats them out like a narc. Mr. Diddy Rogers shows up, and Annie manages to peel herself off Mullet Guy, leaving him walking like he finally tried the mechanical bull trick from that video with the girl and the Alley X song. Diddy Rogers pretends not to notice, but you can tell he's filing this away under reasons this baddie needs a new man. Later, Annie goes to Diddy Rogers' house to apologize, and he nonchalantly tells her how humans were originally one perfect creature with 4 arms and 4 legs, until Zeus split them apart, cursing everyone to search forever for their missing half. Basically implying that maybe Mullet Guy isn't the waffle to her house. All because if you want to keep your girl from running off with Cardigan Man, you just upgrade her to Young Mom. Start small. Swap her oat milk creamer with baby vitamins. Say it's organic. Say Gwyneth Paltrow recommended it. Next, weaponize the protection. You forget the rubber friend. Or better yet, microwave it first, so it disintegrates like Dollar Tree saran wrap. Then add psychological warfare. Casually leave baby name lists around the house. Make dad bod jokes at party. Photoshop ultrasound pictures into the fridge slideshow. And if she pushes back, remind her how unemployed you are, especially after that tour you missed for her. Tell her if she leaves, you'll take the house and bleed her dry in phantom child support. So Mullet Guy officially slips full-time into Inspector Mullet mode. He digs up a photo of the missing couple at the exact same cave he and Community Annie fell into. But right as he's about to connect the dots, the Wi-Fi cuts out, proving once again that T-Mobile home internet is the real villain. Then something heavy slams against her bedroom door. Turns out, Annie's being pulled toward him like a middle schooler to a vape shop. They agree to sleep in separate rooms, toss each other a frosty goodnight, and immediately get yanked across the floor like divorced parents fighting over the last Olive Garden coupon. To stop the fusing, they both down muscle relaxants and pass out cold. But the next morning, Mullet Guy wakes up tied to a chair with his arm still fused with Annie's, while she calmly preps a chainsaw like she's ready to cut down government bureaucracy in Argentina. And this is where I see a real red flag, guys. If your girl's first thought is to grab a chainsaw, before even calling a doctor, that girl is not a keeper. Because healthy girlfriends, they blindly guess treatments to all conditions by Googling WebMD. Toxic girlfriend. They Google steel dealership near me. When she wanted Mullet Guy, he rizzed her up right there in the school bathroom, traumatizing at least one kid for life. But when he accidentally merged his skin tissue with hers in his sleep, she went straight for the Guantanamo scrub. So yeah, Mullet Guy didn't need muscle relaxants. He needed relationship relaxants. Because once your boo treats a medical emergency like a kebab malfunction in Glendale, it's time to unfuse permanently. So Annie doesn't wait for doctors. She grabs a chainsaw and carves them apart like it's Thanksgiving at Hannibal Lecter. Mullet Guy screams, Annie shrugs, and somehow they both survive the worst couples massage in history. Annie heads off to the hospital for meds, and Mullet Guy beelines back to the cave, like a weird neighbor who just heard on the news that the kid's backpack has a tracker. But instead of closure, he finds the missing couple fused together into one giant flesh ball monster. Basically, me and my wife trashed on our honeymoon at the Circus buffet in Vegas. Meanwhile, Annie stops at Diddy Rogers' house to get her missing car keys, but instead finds the whole explanation for the pickle they're in. Diddy Rogers is part of a dirty pond water cult that drinks it to physically fuse with their lovers and pay half as much for therapy. He also insists Annie's fusion with Mullet Guy is inevitable and cuts her arm to jumpstart the ritual. Annie runs away and finds Mullet Guy to tell him they can't get too close to each other because they'll fuse. So, naturally, they start fusing. Mullet Guy comes up with an idea to cancel his own subscription to save Annie, but he takes too long, and Annie dies first from external bleeding and boredom. So Mullet Guy fuses his hand into her body to revive her, and they decide to just lean into it. Slow dance, kiss, and start merging. Smash cut to Sunday lunch. Annie's parents arrive, knock on the door, and who answers? Not Mullet Guy, not Community Annie, but Community Annie with thicker eyebrows. And this is where I have a problem with the believability of this movie. Because there's no way merging these two people would just give you the same girl, but with a Sephora coupon. Which is why I now present my top 10 list of realistic merging results. Number 10. Fuse two second-rate actors, and you get Stanley Tucci answering the door. Number 9. Two average millennials with crappy jobs and failed love lives. That should automatically merge into Michael Cera. Number 8. A flaky musician and a school teacher. We should have gotten Post Malone as the merging result. Number 7. Fuse a mullet and Annie from Community, and you get Nicolas Cage from Face Off. Number 6. Scientifically, there's a 40% chance any fusion ends up as Danny DeVito. That's just math. Number 5. Fuse Dave Franco and someone with an even squeakier voice, and it's James Franco who should have answered the door. Number 4. Fuse any couple past 30 and you unlock Shrek. That's something they don't write in biology books. Number 3. Fuse a sad boyfriend and a girl with a chainsaw. That's a recipe for Tim Burton if I had to put my money on it. Number 2. Fuse a mediocre musician and an annoying girlfriend. And the door opens to Taylor Swift. If my notes are correct here. And the most realistic fusion result? You fuse Mullet Guy's toxic codependency and Annie's fake smile. And you get Will Smith answering the door. Subscribe!